Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. I am at Albany Bulb. This place is quite unique, and if you haven't figured out why already, I'm going to tell you in a minute. But first, I'd like to tell you where I am. We are in the San Francisco Bay, on the East Bay in Albany, California. And to the south is Berkeley, to the north is Richmond. And there are 4 small parks in this area, one in Emeryville, one in Berkeley, one in Albany, and another in Richmond. They are all part of something called McLaughlin State Park. But what's interesting is only parts of this area and parts of the other parks are part of McLaughlin State Park. And then the other one is, I think, just municipally owned. Down in the waterfront in Emeryville, there's a little park. And then the next one there, you can see it right there. That bare part of land is Cesar Chavez Park, but that's actually not part of the McLaughlin State Park. But some of the shoreline there is. And that used to be the Berkeley dump. What is significant is that back in the 60s, the bay was pretty polluted. Folks in Berkeley figured out that the bay was pretty shallow, and if you just filled it in, you could make a lot more land for housing and make Berkeley bigger, whatever. But then this woman named Sylvia McLaughlin came along, I think in the mid-60s, 1965 or so, with a couple of other women, and they decided, well, we really should keep this place pristine and keep it waterfront. They got together, lobbied, and convinced the city of Berkeley to restore this to wetlands, marsh, wildlife areas. That's actually what happened. So now we have these parks, and it's a beautiful place. Albany Bulb is called Albany Bulb because there's kind of a long shaft. There's 2 paths that go straight out. This one's kind of paved, and then there's one up above me here that's dirt. And anyway, it's kind of a narrow track, 100 feet, a couple hundred feet wide. And then when we get up to this area ahead of me, there's actually a bulb which kind of rounds out, and that's the area that we're going to head to, and that's why they call it the bulb. Okay, if you haven't figured out what makes Albany Bulb special, it's the sculptures. And this is Clarissa here, and I'm going to have her tell you why. Clarissa, so why is this Albany Bulb so special? All right, she doesn't seem real talkative right now, but she's absolutely beautiful. Somebody did a great job with this sculpture of her. And she's sitting here in this little area, which is overlooking the bulb there. That's where we just walked. And over behind me here is a bunch of papers and paper clips, and it's a place where you can write your notes or whatever you want to do here. And then just below this, if we go down this way, there's actually a tire swing. But before we get there, here's another little sculpture where you can clip on your notes. There's love yourself, to find community, just a bunch of notes here, and there's some artwork there. So here's the tire swing right here. All right, so now I'm walking along the south shore of the bulb. I got to step over this log here. And then there's a bunch of this old concrete here. And one of the things that they do is they tend to use these to paint on. Of course, nobody minds because it's not like painting on beautiful granite rock or anything. It's just old busted up concrete that ended up here. So it's perfectly okay for the artist to paint on here. And some of the stuff is really nice. It's that nice yellow and blue thing there. Design, there's Mr. Green over there. And then we got this nice pattern here, which is incredible. This thing I kind of find interesting. There's all these rocks that are lined up, and they're all painted yellow. More on that in a minute, but let me just show you some more stuff here. Beautiful artwork. There's the eyeball there. So somebody's taken these chunks of yellow concrete and stacked them up, and you can walk on them. I kind of like to call it the yellow brick road. And here's some more artwork along here. Doing this artwork is not discouraged. In fact, I think it's even more than tolerated. It's probably encouraged. So there's a lot of this going on. So you can just walk around here, and it's relatively short. I think the whole walk around the bulb, if you just walk around the perimeter, is around 2 miles. But there's a bunch of trails in the center there, which will make the walk a lot longer. I mean, I'm calling it the yellow brick road. I'm just making up names for stuff. And there's probably more to it. For our purposes, it's fine and dandy just to call it what we call it. Realize. Okay, when you're walking along the shore, there's places where you can get up, and it's just very primitive. It's not like planned trails. They're just kind of steep ways you can climb up. Be prepared for that. It's totally doable, but it's a little bit of a chore. So I'm going to climb up to the surface here so we can look at some other stuff. Okay, now I'm climbing among this busted up concrete that you can see, and then I'm going to try to head over to the A-frame over there that's right over there in front of the pampas grass right there, or behind the pampas grass. Okay, this is a place that opens up, and there's some really nice artwork on the front of this structure here. You can see it's kind of a A-frame type situation. The pampas grass on the right there. Another pretty cool view of it. All the artwork. Caution, I am tipsy. Prayer flags up there. There's a hammock there and a swing. You can actually, if you can step through this structure actually. And then there's a little lodge at the end here, which you can see, which is cool. I don't know what happens when we get behind it, if we can get over to the main part. But it's very dicey back here. And see if maybe we can get through, because there's some kind of flat concrete stuff here, which may make it a little bit easier. This is kind of a path, which is pretty cool. Okay, so now I'm on a series of paths, as you can see, like this one here. And then we're going to work our way over to another tire swing here by the tree. And then there's some more cool stuff behind the tree. Some of the paintings are pretty awesome. And then once again we have, you know, just not really real trails. You just have to kind of work your way up. And here's an example of another track through here, but it's just basically a single track. This is a bottle on a stick, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, now we're walking back toward the water, and there's a structure here that's kind of cool. It's an old ship. And I won't need my shadow in it, but there we go. That gives you a good view of it. And then we're going to work our way over there. Now, if you look in the far distance, you're going to see the San Francisco skyline. To the left of that is the Bay Bridge. There's the Golden Gate Bridge there, just under the sun. And then to the right there is the bigger mountain. There is Mount Tamalpias, which means the sleeping lady. And from this angle, you can see why they call it the sleeping lady. You can kind of see the head there, and maybe the chest that maybe is a little bit hanging low, and then the feet down there right next to the island in the foreground. Okay, so now we're walking on this series of slabs, and we're going to go down and check the sculptures out over here. There's a hoop thing with some kind of flags on it. It's a little hard to get to. And right below me, here's this blue painted piece of concrete. And then over there, the dude with the dog. I should mention this is a great dog walking park, and he's getting his dog on the sculpture for a selfie, I think. I'm not sure what this is, just a weird kind of bench structure with some flags on it. Looking out that way, you can see that kind of breakout there. There's the San Francisco skyline. And this thing goes all the way around here, and you can actually, if you want to, you can walk out on that thing. Just got to get down there by the shore and walk on it, and you're good. Here's a lovely bench with a view across the bay. Show you the front of the bench here. It's quite nice. And here you can see what appears to be like a ship-like structure. All kinds of stuff on it. It's pretty cool. And this thing here is one of my absolute favorites. The lighting's not real great right now, but I'm going to show you a photo I took earlier that shows these colors in a lot more brightness. But you can see this long tail here. And here's the other side with the ship structure in the background. I really like these two. Here you see a circular maze or labyrinth or whatever you want to call it. It's pretty cool. Here's another pretty cool bench here with some messages on it. There's a nice bit of artwork. And right next to it is this face that I think is really cool. It's just carved into a rock. And then there's a pair of old shoes on top of it. It's pretty nice. There's something that's very nicely done in the distance there, like a rotating windmill kind of thing. That's very cool. All right, right behind me here you see one of the best sculptures of all, in my opinion. Looks like some sort of sun goddess or something, but she's made of wood and stuff and pieces of metal and whatever. She's got her hand out. She's just pretty gorgeous. We are on the North Shore right now. All right, folks, as I stand here by Beseeching Woman or Water Woman, and those are not official names, but that's what some people call it. I want to tell you a little bit about the history here. So the Ohlone people were the original Native Americans that lived here. And then we can fast forward to the 1800s. And at that time they started to build a railroad that they wanted to build along closer to the shore there. And they did that, and then after that, they started to put in the Golden Gate Fields horse racing track. And that was originally actually a hill there, like Albany Hill, but a little smaller. And they bombed that thing out and took all the fill dirt out and made the parking lot for the Golden Gate Fields area. And then they created a flat track. And if you look closely, you can still see some of the hill that still remains. And then this Albany Bulb is a landfill. And it was originally started in 1963. You know, it comes out in kind of a stem, and then they started filling up this area. And if you look at the far end, you'll see the rocks and the concrete piled up in kind of a rectangle. And what they were doing there is they were trying to contain the fill. So they would fill one area, and once they completed that, they'd build that rock barrier. And then they would put the fill in and just dump it in the water, and then the water would overflow out to the bay, but it kind of kept the garbage contained. We got a plane overhead, sorry about that. So there's that one rectangle, and then there's the other one that jetties out, and that was where they were going to continue building the next one. Now, with the changes that happened in the 60s, people started becoming more aware, and this landfill was active from 1963 to 1983. And then in 1983 is when they decided, okay, enough. And so that's why that rock area still remains today. And after 1983, people started coming out here and squatting and building stuff and living out here. And the population out here eventually grew to about 60 people. And then in 1999, Albany came in and said, okay, that's enough. They kicked everybody out. They weren't sure what they were going to do with the land, but they just wanted to have everybody out and just kind of leave it be. And then the population started building up again, and then I think in about 2013 it was up to about 40 people, so it kind of returned to where it was before. And then Albany came in and cleared it out again, and it was at that time I think they decided to make it into a park. And so since then it's become a park, and it's a little weird because there's still a lot of concrete and rebar, and it's not really considered safe. And I've pointed out a lot of the trails and the way you get around here is unofficial. But it's really nice that they keep it that way. I'm kind of glad it's not federal land because they probably close it. I mentioned before that part of the shoreline area is part of McLaughlin State Park, but McLaughlin State Park is managed by the East Bay Park System. But the bulb itself, where I'm standing right now and where all these sculptures are and where all this dicey concrete is actually owned by the city of Albany. So they have jurisdiction over the place. So they can kind of let things be. And it's actually one of the most popular places to visit in California. There's a lot of people here every day. There's the dog walking, you can ride your bike here, and there's just hiking and looking at the sculptures. And people just hang out here and pontificate or meditate or whatever they do. This has turned out to be quite a wonderful place. There's a lot to do here, so I definitely recommend it. We're going to be along the shore, and we're going to cut back over to this kind of the stem. I know bulbs don't have stems, but you know what I mean. Things I think I forgot to mention is that decades ago in the 1950s and 60s, way back then, Emeryville area used to be a place where they do these sculptures in the wetlands down there. And then that area was developed. And so now that tradition has kind of carried on here at Albany Bulb. So it's really nice to see that it's still going on now. The light's not perfect on this one, but the painting on this face is pretty awesome. I just really like this one. Don't forget to like it and subscribe if you like the video. Here's some more nice artwork. Really bright colors on this one. This is a great place for dog walking. What we're going to do now is we're walking around the bulb. If you look over that way, that's the stem there. But what's interesting is in order to get back up there, it almost looks like you can't get up there because it's really steep. Somebody, and I kind of doubt it's the Park Service, but somebody made some kind of stairs. They're still a little steep, but it makes it a lot easier, let's put it that way. Okay, right behind me you can see these stairs going up. It's pretty steep, but you can see that they put in some rebar and some wood there to kind of make stairs. So these stairs are definitely not to code, but they work pretty well. And here's looking back from whence we came. Folks, there's one thing I forgot to mention, and that is that the paved path you can see if you look way in the distance down there, that's the kind of paved. It's pretty sandy, but it's paved. So definitely wheelchair accessible. And then the one that goes on top is the dirt one is right here. So if you prefer to not go climbing on the rocks like I did, you certainly can do a loop, come in on the pavement and out on the dirt on the top, or vice versa, as you see fit. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to go four-wheeling like I did. Well, folks, Clarissa and I would like to thank you for coming along today, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video as much as I did making it. Clarissa, tell them thank you, will you? Oh well. She's silent again. The funny thing is, as soon as I turn off the camera, she starts talking. It's the weirdest thing. But anyway, thanks for coming along, and until next time, thanks for watching.